welcome to Main Street Matters by Heart on Main Street, the podcast that is hoping for the best but preparing for the worst. I am your host, Patrick Keiser. We are back from Asheville. I am still honestly struggling to put into words the meaningfulness of the experience. Going into Asheville, working with Dogwood Darlings, making donations to a couple other retailers in the area, it was impactful. It meant a lot to these retailers. The area of Asheville is still recovering. We spent a lot of time in the Biltmore Village area, and while the kind of hallmark location kitchen corner has just opened up, literally the day that we got there on Monday, Kitchen Corner had their grand reopening, but not much else in that area has reopened. And while that is a beacon of light in bringing people back into the area, there's a lot of work still to be done. So I am incredibly proud of the work that we did with Dogwood Darlings. I'm going to be talking later this week, really telling their story of what went on and how they're recovering and what we did for them. But needless to say, it was powerful. It was an experience that we will never forget. Those that were involved, we brought down 17 volunteers to be a part of this rebuild, repair project for them. When I talk to people about our organization and what we do for independent retailers that have been affected by natural disasters, we commonly get this refrain, "What you do is so important." And it is, and it's almost become this running joke between my staff and I that if one more person tells us that it's really important but does not provide any support to help us do those things, we're going to lose our minds. Because it is so important. What we are doing is making an impact. We are having a fantastic effect on the areas that we work in, and this is a great example of that. Yes, providing financial funds to retailers in the area to help them cover costs of the rebuild process, to help them get back on their feet, is going a really long way. It's helping these retailers. All of the retailers that we've been able to work with have been able to reopen their stores. That is an incredible stat for us. Nationally, about 43% of retailers do not reopen their stores afterward, but every single retailer that we have worked with has been able to reopen, which is just absolutely incredible. And this is such a great reminder, and really being able to see it, that this is important and impactful, and what we're doing is making a real difference for the retailers, for their lives, for the community that surrounds them, and really bringing hope and perseverance into these areas, that when the retail stores rebuild, people are coming back in, that the economy starts to build back, that there's light at the end of the tunnel after this very dark period for the area. Today's episode is really going to be focused on that rebuild process, not necessarily the work that we did in Asheville, but recently we had a webinar where we featured 3 different retailers that we have worked with that have all gone through natural disasters, and allowed them to tell a little bit of their story, but also not dwell on that, but really go and focus on how did they overcome, how did they persevere, what steps did they take in order to get their stores back open. It's not a linear path. A lot of ups and downs and rockiness and trials and tribulations and unfortunately looting and crime involved in these things. But they keep working. They keep pushing. They work with the insurance companies. They find every resource they can. And so through listening to these 3 retailers' stories, I hope that you are able to have guidance, have an understanding of what all it takes in order to rebuild a business after they've lost everything. And I want this to provide a guiding light for people and a path that, heaven forbid, you will never, ever experience what they have gone through, but maybe you might. And that there is a resource out there and there is a path for you to follow so that you can understand how you can get back on your feet and reopen your store. Be a part of your community again so that you can really bring that guiding light to others as well. So without further ado, I present to you the interview that we conducted with Anita Cereceda, the owner of the Islander in Fort Myers Beach, Florida, Christy Morris, the owner of Mix Mercantile in Sulphur, Oklahoma, and Andrea Morris, the owner of Brickwood Boutique in Temple, Texas. I hope you enjoy. Today, we're going to be talking to three different retailers that I'm sure they have a lot that is in common with each other. However, they have all experienced damage to their store from natural disasters. And so that is going to be our theme of today, looking at really their road to recovery and how they've come back from that. So I would like to introduce our guests. We have Andrea Morris of the Brickwood Boutique in Temple, Texas. Andrea, thank you for joining today.
Yes, of course. Thank you for having me.
Anita Cereceda of the Islander in Fort Myers Beach. Anita, thank you for joining.
I'm happy to be here, Patrick.
Absolutely. And Christy Morris of the Mix Mercantile in Sulphur, Oklahoma. Christy, thank you for being here too.
Yes, I don't know if you can hear me. It looks like I'm having some trouble with my video.
Okay. We can hear you. Yeah, so
Okay,
that's okay. Hey, we'll take it. The audio
Okay.
version will be great. So again, thank you all very much for being here today. We're going to learn a lot from your wealth of knowledge and your experiences that you've been through. So really today, our topic is retailers that have been affected by natural disasters. And natural disasters are something that obviously affects the entire community. But often when people think about them, they often think about the residents and the displacement that occurs. But natural disasters do affect the entire community, including the business community. And so while you might not think, hey, this is something that really affects me, from hurricanes to tornadoes to floods, wildfires, earthquakes, they really can affect any part of the country, as I'm sure you all will hear today. You never expect it to happen to you. And so it is something to prepare for and understand really what that road is to recovery. So I wanted to bring Andrea and Anita and Christy together today because they are able to lay out some of their experiences and sort of a roadmap of how you're able to recover and come back from something that can be incredibly devastating and difficult and lonely to come back from. So while this is entitled After the Storm, I do want to start before the storm and ask you all about, have some AI coming in, ask you about your stores before the event and what inspired you or your family to begin a retail store, and tell us a little bit about your stores. So I don't know who would want to dive in first, but.
Anita, you want to go?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll go right ahead. Okay.
Yeah.
So before the storm, before one of the storms, I had three stores. My parents opened the Pure Peddler in 1985, on December 30th, 1985. And that store was a thriving little family business, just 1,000 square feet. Located right by the pier on Fort Myers Beach until September 28th of 2022, in which case it washed away. In 2003, I opened myself another store called Local Color. And then in 2017, there was an opportunity because I'm on Fort Myers Beach, which is a 7-mile island. And those two stores were located at the north end of the island. On the south end of the island, I opened the Islander. They're very much focused on locals, but of course, tourism is our number one trade. And so I say locals because Andrea, you probably have the same experience in a family business. So many of my customers have become family over the years. And so I don't think of them as any different than somebody who's lived on the island for 50 years. They're as much a part of the fabric of our community as anybody else. And so I had three very lovely, wonderful businesses. And now I have one. Thank goodness. So. There you go. Those are my 3 stores, Patrick.
Yeah, thank you. Andrea, you want to tell us a little about Brickwood Boutique?
Yes, definitely feel the family business. My parents opened Brickwood when I was 15. That was 2002. So I was in high school, and my siblings were in college, and my mom just needed to make a little extra money on the side to help pay for them to go to college. And so she really started it as something fun and as a hobby, and it just grew. At one point, we had 2 locations. We closed one of them down. It just bigger's not always better. And so it was just more manageable for our family. And when I graduated from college, I came back to help the business, and it's been in business almost 25 years now. So I pretty much run everything. And I was definitely in charge of taking care of the business when the tornado hit. So it's been a year, and I have absolutely learned so much, and I really am excited to share so that hopefully we can all help anyone who is going through what we had to go through.
Mm-hmm.
And Christy, can you tell us about Mixed Mercantile?
Yes, so we started in 2010, and the way that I kind of had the idea, I was a booth renter in a little Mercantile, a little marketplace, and I told my husband, I said, I have 2 boys, we have 2 boys, and I said, it was so important. 30 some odd years old at the time, and I said, I remember my mom was always at everything, and I was a teacher and a coach, and I didn't necessarily want to be with other people's kids and not with mine. So I told him, this is what I want to work towards. And when my oldest was in 5th grade, he actually bought me for Christmas a little mini fridge and a microwave. And I'm going, okay, am I moving out? And he said, no, I think it's time that you've built this business up that you can, quit your job. So we also had 2 stores. We started with one in Ada, my mother and I. And then we were asked actually by the then Main Street, they've since closed, but the Main Street organization there in Sulphur to come and look to try to open up there. And so we did. And that's a town of about 4,500. And we have thrived there ever since. We actually did better from the very first day in that store than we did in our store where we started in Ada, which is probably about a town of 25,000. So, of course, we were in a rented building to start. And then after that, my husband and I purchased an old hardware store across the street, completely renovated it. In 2016, we opened there. And then in 2024, the building turned 100 years old, and a tornado wiped us off the face of the earth. So that's where we're at now. We are in the process of rebuilding and hope to be able to open back up early September.
I'm very excited to see you open back up. So I did, all kind of hinted at, and really, we mentioned in the beginning, but the tie that binds, not only being retail owners, but all of you all have gone through and experienced a natural disaster and seen damage to your store and closures of your store. Can you all tell us about the day, the night that it happened, and kind of what went on and your reactions to the event as it happened?
Do you want me to start again and we just do this round robin? Okay.
Sure, you can.
So I am a native Floridian, generationally native Floridian. And, I've lived through my fair share of hurricanes. This particular one, right before, Patrick, you said before, during, is that what you want me to tell you? Before kind of?
Or just, kind of the day of was, I guess hurricane, you
Yeah.
have a little bit more notice. So
Yes,
how much
we
ahead of
did.
time? And
Well, a few days before, we boarded up, closed up the stores just like we always have. Did everything we could to kind of get merchandise off the floor in case there was any water intrusion. My store manager for Local Color duct taped the seal around the doors just to be for added security. Then I went to my house and, basically got a suitcase full of stuff and went to my sister's about 15, 18 miles away in Cape Coral, where we were going to ride the storm out, and just waited. And in that wait, which I don't know what's worse, to be clobbered like you guys were with a tornado, which is just so random and it's just awful to even think about for me, or to sit and wait, which is like water torture, you're just waiting to see what happens. And that waiting was, especially when we knew that it had turned and we were going to have more or less a direct hit. As soon as we knew that, then it was like, the wind gets knocked out of you because you don't know what to expect. And again, being a native Floridian, hurricanes for me were wind events, not necessarily flooding events, but all anybody kept talking about was this storm surge, storm surge, storm surge. And, when the weather guy comes on and starts showing you what the storm surge means, even right now, it makes me sick to my stomach to think about it because, essentially the entire island was underwater. I mean, you just saw little, peaks of roofs and so that waiting was just brutal, really brutal. So there's my waiting story. Fortunately, I was with my sisters and my brother-in-law, and God bless them. So
I appreciate you sharing your story because I know
yeah,
it's difficult it'll be
it
for all
is.
of you. So thank
Even
you.
here, we're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of this, thing, and even still today, it is just. I mean, I don't know how it is for you ladies, but it's like there's this pit in your stomach, and you just go, ah. You hope it goes away one day, right? So far, mine has not.
No, I don't think it goes away. And I think you just carry that, it's traumatic. And our store is called Brickwood Boutique. And it's about an hour north of Austin. We're in Central Texas. And so, of course, everything's been on the news with the Hill Country, which is not far from us. So we're used to flash flooding because we're around so many lakes and rivers. And on that particular day, I had just gotten home from the grocery store. Our store closed at 6 p.m. It was a beautiful day. But when I came home from the grocery store, we live out at the lake. And so I was, looking at the lake as I'm turning into my street. And I pulled into the driveway and I knew something was wrong because I've never seen the sky look like that. And I could see that it was about to jump over the lake into our neighborhood. And we usually get hit first out here, and then it, turns into whatever happened on May 22nd. But we have a lot of storms, and I grew up here, and I honestly I knew something was wrong, but I wasn't alarmed. I turned the news on, and the meteorologist says no rotation, just a very strong thunderstorm. Put your cars in the garage. There's going to be big hail, which we are used to big hail here. But when it started to blow in, I have 2 children, and I just knew in my gut something was wrong. So I told them to get in the pantry, and just take cover because it turned scary really fast and it's hard to talk about.
Oh, I can't imagine.
But luckily, the rotation didn't happen in our neighborhood. Sadly, it started to gain traction as it went towards town where our business is located, which is the newest part of town. We moved over there in 2016 after leaving our location that we had been in for 12 years. Really great side of town. It's where everything is being built and booming, and that tornado just picked up right there and it just went right through our side of town. So I actually didn't know there was a tornado because the guy on the TV, our power went out, and I didn't understand that there was a tornado until almost 2 hours later because we had no cell service. A friend of mine texted me and asked if the business was okay. And that's when I got in my car. All the lights were out because there was no power anywhere, and all I could see were fire trucks and ambulances for as far, and I knew something was wrong.
Oh.
So,
And so 2 hours afterward, were you at that point able to start assessing damage?
not really. I couldn't get in. My parents were actually the ones that were able to get into the area because there's so many houses around that area.
Mhm.
It just destroyed so many neighborhoods, and it wasn't. She told me just to stay with my children, and then I could go in the morning. So that's what happened.
Again, thank you for sharing. I know that's not easy, and this I do want to focus kind of on recovery afterward, but
Yes, please.
knowing, I know, and knowing kind of the event is important to knowing what happened. Christy, I don't know if you would want to share about the day in Sulphur as well.
Yes, so it was a Saturday. Our event happened April 27th of 2024. And thank goodness it was a night tornado. Those are the scariest, but at least we didn't have, any employees at the store. Excuse me. We, again, just like these ladies, I'm an Okie, always have been. And so I've never really been afraid of tornadoes. We're kind of the ones that step out on the porch and watch the clouds and all that. And even though I didn't physically go through it, and I've seen tons and tons of, damage on the news stations and things, because we do have so much of that in Oklahoma. Until you are actually in the middle of it after the destruction, you just can't fathom what the feeling is. You can't fathom, even pictures don't do it justice, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But ours came through about 10:30 at night. I live next door to my mom. And she texted and she said the alarms are going off. And, we were kind of the same way. There's a sale coming up, but no real warning. And so what happened is ours came over the mountains, the Arbuckle Mountains there, and tore through the park. And it was just all of a sudden. We looked back on our camera system, and everything was just as still as possible. I mean, it was just very still. And we thought maybe we could have captured, our front windows blowing in or something like that. But it went from being still and peaceful to there was no power.
Yeah.
So after that hit, then there was actually another one following right behind it that we had to wait to get the all clear on. So we went down around midnight, 12:15 in the morning, and we beat a lot of the first responders, down there. It took us about 30 minutes to even get into downtown because there was so much flooding. And once we got down there, it was hard to see our backup alarm. Our power was beeping. You know, our alarm was going off, and it was very surreal, I guess is the word. We couldn't see. We knew that it was bad. We only had like our back wall and part of our east wall left. Everything else was gone. Our roof was peeled back like a can. But I don't think that any of it really. I still don't really think that it has really hit me what we went through, because 3 weeks prior to that, we lost my daddy. And so that, as bad as it was, really didn't seem like that big a deal comparatively.
Oh Lord, I'm not going to make it through this.
Well, again,
God,
I
love you,
appreciate
Christy.
you all sharing, and something I kind of notice is throughout this, none of you thought it was going to happen to you. Whether it was
No.
the news telling you it wasn't going to, or that you've lived through the hurricanes, you've lived through tornadoes, that there's this, it's not going to happen to me. And it did. And so, from our, audience and those, future watching, the mindset of it's not going to happen to me, is okay until it does happen to you. And that you might be in that mindset, but you really, anyone can be affected by anything. Following, and I know there's the whole process of, it is grieving. It is, you're going through the steps of grieving, and this couldn't have happened, and all of that. But what were the steps that you all started to take, and what were the first things that you looked at and that you could control to make your steps back towards reopening and progress?
Like Christy and Andrea, they're both grateful that, the stores were closed. There was no one there. I mean, my first step was really to make sure that everyone I knew was safe. And in fact, there were people that had died. Florida, especially where I live, is a little different than you guys. I mean, we see it coming at us. We see it coming for weeks and days. And of course, the weather people, thank God Jim Cantori is retiring, because I hear his voice and I go a little kooky. But we see it coming, and we know that we have to prepare, and it's, whole season long and everything else. But I think probably my first conscious, because you make decisions that you're making in this grieving, chaotic zone. I think my first conscious decision was to wait. I had to find housing because my house was also uninhabitable. It had been, the structure was there, but it was just trash. There was almost 9 feet of water inside my house, and my house is up almost 4 feet off the ground. There's so many pieces. It's like all of a sudden somebody throws 1,000-piece puzzle at you and says, figure it out. And you don't even know what the picture looks like, much less how to put the pieces together. I mean, I'd been in business for a long time, but insurance was not my thing. So, you start making phone calls, you realize, everybody likes to tell you, oh, we're in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. Like hell you are. You're not in the same boat. You're in your boat trying to do whatever you can, but you are not in anybody else's boat and they're not in yours. As much as people like to say that. This is whether it's a hurricane like what hit me, or tornadoes like what you guys, I'm sure, are experiencing, it's uncharted territory. I mean, unless, Andrea, you went to school for insurance and business, which I did not. I mean, God.
I did now.
I have now too. So I think that my plan was to make sure everybody was safe and take a breath. We couldn't access the island for almost 10 days. So my whole experience of what was what had happened to my life as I knew it was the news. And like you guys, our power went out, our cell phones went out, and so hours and hours had passed before there was any sign of what had happened. And then that morning when the news came on and the helicopters were flying down the island, I couldn't believe that everything was gone. I felt like Armageddon had been filmed at Fort Myers Beach. It was nothing short of a war zone. And it wasn't just us. It was all the barrier islands, Sanibel and Captiva and Pine Island and inland. It was just unfathomable. You couldn't. So I if I was going to give somebody advice, I would say, remember to breathe. If you have a therapist, call them early because you need to get them in line, and start to make a list of. Hopefully you've got folks around you who can help organize things and start to figure out who you need to call and how many lines you're going to need to stand in, and what's most important to accomplish in that starting time, because it's chaotic. And forgive yourself for the emotional breakdowns that you're going to have, and forgive yourself for not knowing stuff. Because, like I said, I've been in business have been in business for a very long time. And the simplest things, I just didn't know where to go or who to talk to or what to do with it. And they were all things that, of course, I thought I should know.
Andrea, where did you all start from?
Yeah. It happened in the evening as well. So by the time everything happened, it was dark. So you can't really see until the next day when the sunlight comes out. It's a little bit of an interesting situation. You kind of just freeze for a second because it's traumatic, and she's right. Someone literally throws a puzzle at you and says, here you go, figure it out, because there's no one to ask. But everyone's in a different situation. We don't own our building. We are tenants. And so we're in a different situation.
Neither did I. Yeah.
That owns their building. I will say this. What we did first was we contacted our insurance agent, who happens to be a family member. But even then, he really had not dealt with something like this either. So even though he sells the insurance, he doesn't know how to navigate the insurance company. And he was helpful, but I really did have to just figure this out on my own. So first step was to say, hey, what is our coverage? And what does that look like for us? Because we're a tenant, the landlord also has insurance. And so in our situation, the water, so the daycare behind us, like Christy, roof ripped off. Our shopping center sits down. A Tesla that was at the restaurant next door, actually their car had the camera that actually recorded the entire tornado coming through the whole area. There was no power. So any security cameras that we have outside, like nothing was working. But that Tesla recorded the tornado coming down the street, essentially. But because our part of the shopping center was down, it unfortunately ripped the roof off of everything behind us and part of the shopping center, but our space is on the interior of the center. And so what happened was windows were busted. It was the water that came in through the roof. Everything was flooded. Everything was wet, knocked over. It just was a mess on the inside. In my little ideal brain, I think I thought, oh, this insurance adjuster will be here tomorrow. And we'll figure this out quickly, and we'll everything fast. And it took him 2 weeks to get there. And he basically said, get in line. I have tons of people to deal with. So you're just gonna have to wait until I can get there. And we waited, and everything got moldy and
Of course.
gross, and there's no power, and all of our merchandise ruined. And I will tell retailers, you must know what is in your store at all times.
Yes.
We've already had 2 burglary attempts since we just reopened March 4th. We've had 2 burglary attempts through our back door. And
There's a special place in hell for people like that.
I know. So we've never had a burglary attempt, but after this tornado, we've had 2, and you need to know what your coverage is. You need to understand your policy. You need to understand your lease. You need to understand your inventory.
Yep.
Thank God for us, we knew exactly what was in our building. I immediately, before the insurance adjuster ever got there, I had bids. I ran bids on everything. Don't ask me how I knew to do that. I don't know how. I went to the sign company. I went to the construction people. I went everywhere that I could think of that would have to be built back. I had all those bids done before he even got there.
You're a smart girl.
That is key right there. If you can present those bids quickly, they're going to give you your money a lot faster. And then I also knew exactly what was in our store, from every display to every necklace to every piece of clothing. So when he got there, I presented him with our complete and full inventory of what we had on hand. If you can do that, that will save you a lot of time.
Yes.
How did you accumulate that? Did you have just all that on a spreadsheet? Was it videos that you would take in? How did you know everything?
So you can look at our Instagram. We do a lot of videos. We do a lot of photography. We do that once a week, but everything is through Square. We use Square for our point of sale. We might be one of the only boutiques that doesn't use Shopify, but Square is very simple, their point of sale. And so everything is stored digitally. And we put everything in there, from supplies to displays. We know everything that is sitting in that building. And that was very helpful.
Good. I mean, that's fortuitous that you were able to do that. Yeah. And the going out to get the bids to make sure that you know exactly how much it's going to cost.
And I even went to the store fixture places. I contacted them from the people that we had bought our fixtures from years ago. I'm talking 2012. And I got comparable displays as to what they would cost today. And that is really important, that you understand all of the display costs and all of that. Because if you cannot present to the insurance company what you had in there and what it would cost to replace it today, I don't know what people do in that situation.
We'll circle back on that because pray is I think what Anita had to do. But Christy, what was kind of your steps? And I know you were within a week or two you had a business plan outlined. Can you talk about what your steps were?
Yes. So ours was a little different because we did own the building, and there was just so much. When we got down there, because we knew that it was going to be hard to get back down in that area the next day. So we were down there at like 4:30, parked in the morning, waiting for the sun to come up to see if we had anything that was salvageable. And so the Oklahoma Highway Patrol showed up and they told us, we started kind of cleaning up, kind of trying to go through things. And they said, all these buildings are going to be condemned. You have an hour. And so, we were trying to kind of go through our children's clothes because, and I'll back up. The next day, actually, that afternoon, our adjuster showed up. So we were lucky in that, and he took one look at it. He said, I'm going to walk around and take pictures, but this is going to be a total loss on your building and on everything inside. That's going to be my recommendation. So we were thinking, okay, our children's clothes, maybe we can donate those to the church. So we had some girls come down, and they were, trying to go through all of it, but we didn't really realize in a tornado, there were pieces of clothes that had wood fibers and fiberglass fibers from the insulation embedded in them. So in good conscience, of course, we can't save any of that stuff to even donate. So then it was just a process of having to get all this stuff out of the building, and we were throwing it out on the road, basically. But so we got everything cleared out. Then they came back, told us, oh, well, we're not going to condemn it. And then they came back and said they are going to condemn it. And then there were people everywhere pulling wagons, people from out of town coming in. And one guy had a rope or a chain wrapped around this long I-beam in the store next to us, getting ready to rip it out. I mean, it was the craziest thing I've ever seen. There were so many people looting. And we're a little bitty tiny town of 4,500 people. So anyway, I went home, and I think it was probably just trying to occupy my mind, but I drew out brand new plans, had, the idea. We were lucky in the fact that they sent us a $50,000 check from our insurance just right off the bat. I mean, like, they overnighted it to us. So we had a field adjuster, and then we had a desk adjuster. And so the desk adjuster called, and, he made me feel really good about everything. And they were pretty quick to get us our building money. That took about probably 2 months. And then after that, it just turned to heck. I went through 2 desk adjusters. And then they have you have recoverable depreciation. And, they don't tell you that in the beginning. And, thank goodness, we had replacement cost value instead of actual cash value as far as our insurance policy is concerned, because things are a lot more expensive now. Like you said, rebuying displays, so many of those things we picked up over the years that we've been in business, and the actual cash value of those are very minimal with depreciation and everything. So we finally got our last check 2 weeks ago for the rest of our recoverable depreciation. So it was 14 months to be able to get everything out of insurance. But that was I finally told the insurance company, I said, listen, I'm unemployed right now, and I'm going to get every dime out of you that you owe me. If you want to create red tape for me, then I am going to inundate you with paperwork. And you're going to have to look through every receipt that I have. And so we did. We got every penny out of them that we were supposed to, but it's just a waiting game with them. I think they think that people will just throw up their hands and say, okay, I'm tired of dealing with it. But I didn't have anything better to do. So.
So, yeah, I guess so. Insurance is it's a bear to deal with, and all have your own experiences with them. Christy, inundate them with paperwork, kind of constantly be on top of them. Andrea, how did what was your strategy of dealing with the insurance?
So I immediately started running it like a business. Honestly, I thought, okay, we don't have a business right now. And for a second there, I will tell you, because my parents were very close to retirement. There was a moment where we as a family just almost did not rebuild. Yeah. Just because our policy, if you do not have business interruption insurance, you cannot pay your payroll. You cannot pay your employees. You they're not going to pay your bills every month. They're not going to do any of that. And so luckily we had that, but I ran it as our business. So I started just like I would with our inventory. What do I need for this? And I had a very organized folder on my computer for the insurance adjuster. And then I also hired a forensic accountant in Houston because I did not understand how to calculate the business interruption. It's a formula. And to also show the growth that we were on. We were on a 15% profit growth in 2024 from 2023.
Good for you. Good for you.
And so we were growing, and I didn't want them to just look at our sales from 2023 and say, well, this is what we're going to give you because this is what you sold. I wanted them to take into consideration that we were growing. And so the money that they owed us was not what we sold the year prior. I'm very creative, but I am not an accountant and I don't understand how the insurance accountant was going to come up with his numbers. So I hired my own forensic accountant. That was very expensive, but was totally worth it because he took that off of me. He told them what they owe us. And let me tell you something, not once did they ever throw a fit about it or argue with it. He presented to them just as a lawyer would represent you. And so if you can do that, it does take a load off of you having to worry about if the insurance company is really paying you what they owe you. Because with business interruption insurance, there's no limit. Nobody says you have to pay them this much, or they could just make up whatever they want. And you would have no idea of knowing if that was correct. So a forensic accountant, if you can do it, is definitely worth it. But every folder I had on my laptop was dated. I had, we had to get a storage unit for a couple of things that did make it. But honestly, our insurance company called it a total loss. They came in, which Christy, this is interesting that you had to clean your building out because they sent someone to us who did that for us.
Wow.
And I would think that they should do that. That should be in your policy. But yeah, keeping everything organized and understanding how to prioritize what's needed first. And like I said, those bids are very, very important. The insurance company will ask you for documents if you don't give them to them. But if you can present to them first, it goes a lot faster.
Anita,
I wish I'd known you, Andrea.
Anita, I know you had a different experience with insurance. Tell us a little bit of your experience.
I had no insurance. I never thought about a hurricane being a flood event. It was a wind event to me. But of course, now I know that, and hopefully everyone who might be impacted by a hurricane will know this, that anything below a water line is your flood insurance. Anything above that water line is your wind or homeowner's policy. The only thing, and it doesn't count if your building's completely blown or washed away because, they'll just debate that till the cows come home. So I am so impressed with you two ladies, how you handled that, because you handled and are handling that in the midst of losing everything, which is your brain just goes wonky, right? So I'm very impressed with you all. Very, very impressed with you all. I don't know, I had a friend whose house was completely demolished, washed away. Mine wasn't. And so mine was, weeks of pulling stuff out and trying to decide what you could save. Was my grandmother's clock going to make it or not make it? And he said to me, I don't know what's worse, having to deal with all of that stuff, or just not having anything at all to recover. And
Right.
well, anyway, so my insurance deal was I had wind coverage, and my wind coverage didn't help me. It helped me on my home because part of my roof was damaged, but nothing else. So 3 stores filled with merchandise, gone. Zip, zero.
Oh, that makes
Worst
my
case
heart hurt.
scenario. Yeah.
Worst case. Yeah.
Worst case scenario.
And as a reminder to anyone listening, check your policies.
Oh.
Business
Yes.
interruption, flood. Even if you're thinking, well, I'm not in a flood zone, paying
And
a little
also
bit up
check
front.
your lease.
And your lease.
Understand what your landlord is responsible for and what you are responsible for. Because that is so important.
And when in doubt, assume that you're going to be responsible.
Right.
Absolutely. Always. Always.
Yeah.
What were some of the unexpected things? And certainly we kind of can know that preparing for insurance is going to be a battle. But what were some of the ones that you didn't expect? The battles, the fights, the bumps in the road that came that came out of the blue for you all.
I think mine was just how can I say this? Okay, so we were hit by a tornado, and they wanted hard copies of invoices of everything that we had in our building. And I'm like, okay, you do realize that they're probably 2 to 5 miles away from here, right? And so, even though like we use Shopify, which we are moving to Square when we reopen, but so we had everything in there. We had proof when it was purchased, all this, and they really fought me on that for a while. And I said, so your whole excuse for not paying for our inventory is that we don't have hard copies of those invoices. And they're like, yeah. And I said, well, I don't have copies of the invoices, but I can, we pay everything on a credit card and then pay the credit card off at the end of the month. That's just easier for us, rather than having all these open accounts with people. And so I just sent them all the credit card stuff and was like, okay, well, you have somebody go through this because this shouldn't be on me. We did our part by having our insurance. We had our inventory reports. So you figure it out. And so it was a lot of back and forth when we purchased. They made us purchase things before we even had a place to put it. So my mom has a 1,200 square foot shop, and it is absolutely full of things right now. And when we buy something, then we had to update the spreadsheet, and then they would have to go back to the insurance company, and they'd have to decide whether or not they were going to pay for that. So, there were times that we were out, $50,000-$60,000, and you're hoping and praying that they're going to pay you that money back for those things that you purchased for the store. So I was really shocked about that you had to purchase things and hope that they would reimburse you, basically.
That's interesting. I didn't have that experience, and I think this really, it's not a one size fits all. I mean, honestly, every policy is different, every lease is different, and that's why it's so important to understand all of this, because little tiny add-ons to your policies make an unbelievable difference. I mean, any little bells and whistles that your agent's trying to sell you on and you think, oh, I don't need that, you might, because it could be the difference between something like where she had to purchase these things before. For us, I said, look, this is what these bids say it's going to cost to replace now. And they slowly, nobody gives you money quickly, slowly as we started to purchase, they would give us the money up front before I went and purchased. So basically we agreed upon how much we needed to replace all of our displays, and we got a lump sum to do that. But no one asked for us to do that every single time. I mean, that is just insane to me. Oh, bless your heart. But we did have to get a storage unit to start putting those things in. But I'm sorry, Patrick,
And just an unexpected, something that just
unexpected.
Yeah.
I would say looting while we were waiting for our adjuster to get there was unexpected. Lots of things were stolen by the recovery restoration team that was hired to come in and gut the entire, building and get it down to the studs. Those people were there the next day, and, they can't touch anything as far as demo or anything until your adjuster's been there and everything like that. So we were just getting robbed left and right. And so by the time the adjuster got there, unfortunately, a lot of our stuff was gone due to theft. So that was interesting. And I think that they expect looting, that happens. But another thing I would say is not having control over the demo and rebuilding of the space, getting it back to a white box condition, not having any control over that, because that was the landlord's insurance that had to do that. That was tough. Just because I'm also a construction supervisor now. So I went by daily, and just the things that I saw that were done incorrectly. We had to go back and tell someone, and it's, 2 weeks before they come back and fix it. All of those little construction mishaps, I would say, were not expected.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Patrick, I'm going to say something very positive. One of the extraordinary surprises for me, and I don't know why it surprised me at first, because I think of my vendors as partners in my business. Some of them, I don't know if either one of you sell mud pie, but I have a sales rep named Sue Larman, who Patrick knows. She's like part of my family. And I was joyfully surprised how many folks reached out to me to offer help, to say, you've got look, this hurricane hit September 28th. My fall merchandise was in. I had $20,000 worth of Charlie B. goods in boxes upstairs at my store Local Color that washed away, not even opened. So I felt very blessed by many, the majority of my vendors who reached out to help. There were a couple, literally one in particular, who I'd done business with for years and years and years and years. And, there comes a point where you're out of money. You're just out. And like I said, I had no insurance. And this company, when I opened the Islander, Local Color still had a $700 balance on their books. I said, listen, that company is dead. The accounts are closed, and they refused to do business with me. And I said, well, okay, in this day and age, where there's one, there's 10 more. But I thought that was very short-sighted of them. So there, you need to be honest and straight with everyone you do business with, because I would tell you that the majority of people you reach out to will be there to help you.
Love to hear that. Yep. As we're kind of getting to the end of our hour, one last piece of advice for retailers, for those in the future that might look back on this and as they're grasping for resources. Any last piece of advice for them?
I've got my notes here, so I'm just looking.
Can I tell you mine?
Go ahead.
Here's mine. Don't think about reopening your business because that business is gone. Think about opening a new business because that's essentially what you're doing. At least what it sounds like. Christy, you and Andrea were doing what I was doing. I had zero. I had no data from over 30 years of business because, of course, those computers washed away and my people didn't believe in the cloud. And I literally was starting over. And what's good about that is it frees you up to think about not only what you would have done, but what you would like to do. And at some point in time, when you're, starting your new business, you're going to have some lovely moments when you think, I want to recapture this. In the case of my store, I tried to capture something of all 3 stores in the one store. And people come in and they see that. There are things in there that were from the Pier Pillar, from Local Color. But I never, and I had this conversation constantly with my team. We're not reopening the Islander. We are opening a new business. It has the same name, but it's brand new. And if you go with that perspective, I think you'll meet with less disappointment because you cannot recuperate. People will tell you 100 times, oh gosh, you've got 3 years worth of business to get back or regain or recoup. It's just a fantasy. That it's not true. You lost that. It's gone. And now you have to start again if you choose to. And choosing not to start again is a perfectly viable option, like Absolutely. You just said, Andrea. Perfectly viable option. But just remember that it's a choice, and that you're starting a new adventure, and hopefully you find some joy in that.
Yeah, that's great advice.
You're right. Christy, do you want to go or?
No, you can go ahead.
I was just going to say, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
There is.
We know that now because I don't think we would have opened as fast if we owned our own building, but once the period of restoration was over from the landlord's insurance, that's when our insurance kicked in and we had to rebuild out the entire store, which we had not done since 2016. And before that, 2002. So there is light at the end of the tunnel. I kept focusing on, we're a small community. We're not a huge town. We're in between Waco and Austin. A lot of people pass through our town, but we're not a huge city or anything. And so we really have been a staple in our community for over 20 years. And I would run into customers like around town, grocery store, whatever, and they just kept me going because they kept saying
that's right.
We can't wait for you to reopen. You don't realize how much you do mean to your community until you're gone. And so that made it worthwhile. I just kept envisioning like the day that we would get to reopen our doors. That's what kept me going. And it has been an unbelievable, and Anita, I can't wait for you to experience this, and Christy.
Because I'm open, and it was unbelievable. Oh,
okay.
Yeah, it was a cry fest. Everybody who came in cried.
Yes. And they came back with like this gratitude of just being able to come in. And so it changes your customers, it changes you, it changes your whole perspective. And I will say the tornado has actually blessed our business because
it's so weird to say, isn't it? It's true. It's so true.
Yeah. We got a remodel and then also people were so excited when we reopened. So if you are in the dark tunnel, keep going. You will see light. It will come. And I'm so sorry for anyone that's listening to this because something has happened to them in their business.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Thank you both for sharing. Christy, two amazing pieces of advice, but Christy, do you have anything that you would like to impart as final words?
Um, my thoughts on this are, if you're going through something like this, and I can't speak for Anita or Andrea, but I'm sure they feel the same way, is, reach out to somebody. People that have been through it absolutely do not mind at all you picking their brain or you asking for their help. I know that, I've had a couple of people reach out to me through the boutique hub, because I'd posted something in there about, if you have any questions, because we've also not really fought, but we've also been through the disaster funding through the SBA, and that is a whole other animal. So I think, just not being scared to ask for help, reach out to other people in this community and other communities that store owners are in, to see if there's no reason to reinvent the wheel if someone has that knowledge already.
I agree with that 100%. It does
Me
feel
too.
lonely. It feels lonely at times. And then Patrick, I just want to throw this in there really quick because I forgot to say it, and I think it could really help someone. When you are repurchasing things and doing that kind of thing, customers reached out to us all the time and said, how can I buy something from you now before you open to try to help you? I mean, they knew they couldn't buy any of our stuff because it was taken away. But if you have business insurance, you cannot sell anything to anyone. They will take that away from you. If you show a single sale from the time that you are collecting the insurance, they will cut your money in half, even if that's not even what it should be. So we opted out of selling anything until we actually reopened.
Yeah.
And that includes online business as well, correct? Yeah.
We had to shut our online store down. If they saw a penny coming in, they were going to take a lot of money away.
Yeah. I guess I'm glad I didn't have insurance, Andrea.
Yeah. It made it so much easier, I'm sure.
Well, I don't know. In one way, I guess it did, but gosh. Hey, well, I'm tickled to be here with you two ladies. You have inspired me, and I have taken notes. I hope everyone else has, because you've given a lot of great information.
Well, Andrea, I'm so shocked at your resilience. It makes me get that extra, breath to finish this rebuild and get back to where you ladies are. So
you'll do it, honey. Don't worry. You'll do it. You'll do it.
It'll be better than ever.
Yep.
You can follow Christy on Instagram. I know you're posting a lot of pictures of the rebuild there. So, please follow Mixed Mercantile, follow Brickwood Boutique, follow the Islander, Fort Myers Beach. You can follow along with their stories. But Andrea, Anita, Christy, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing your stories, your experiences, providing guidance to those that they're trying to go through this in the dark. And as Andrea, you said, it's lonely. It can be, but having someone there that can guide you is certainly helpful. So thank you all very much for being on today.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for doing this.
Absolutely.
Yes. Thank you.
I am truly inspired by these three women, the adversity that they've faced, everything that they've gone through to get their stores running again, to reopen, to be a part of their community is inspiring. And I'm so happy that they trust me and our organization enough to be able to tell their story, to be even a small part of their recovery efforts. These are fantastic business people who have gone through the worst thing imaginable, and yet they can stand there, they can tell their story. It's emotional. It is. You feel it in their words. But they're here to provide that guidance for other people, to allow others to know how you can recover, how you can build back stronger. What does that roadmap look like? Later this week, I'm going to be talking about our experience in Asheville, North Carolina. Asheville, as I'm sure you know, was terribly devastated by the effects of Hurricane Helene last September, specifically September 27th, and the 3 retailers that we worked with there, and how they've all made a difference in their community. If you would like to support Heart on Main Street and the efforts that we are doing in communities like Asheville, North Carolina, or Fort Myers Beach, or Sulphur, Oklahoma, or Temple, Texas, or a wide variety of areas that we're working around the country, you can do so by going to www.heartonmainstreet.org and donate there. There are multiple ways to donate through our website, including donor-advised funds as well as cash donations. You can also find our business address through the site if you would like to send a check to our organization. All proceeds go to helping retailers that have been affected by natural disasters and allowing them to recover, rebuild, and remain a part of their community. And then next week, we're going to be back in our book club series. So I will be introducing a new book intended for independent retailers to help you understand how to build a better business. And we'll be taking another book and breaking it down into 10 parts. So I'm very, very excited about this. I've enjoyed the 2 episode per week schedule. Again, allows us to get through a book a little bit quicker than 1 episode per week. And I think it provides great value to you. So I'm really looking forward to that. I hope you all are as well. Until next time, stay safe, shop local, and keep your heart on Main Street. This episode is written, produced, researched, and edited by me, Patrick Keiser, with a very special thanks to Andrea Morris of Brickwood Boutique in Temple, Texas, Anita Cereceda of The Islander in Fort Myers Beach, and Christy Morris of Mixed Mercantile in Sulphur, Oklahoma. For more information about Heart on Main Street, you can visit heartonmainstreet.org, and you can contact us by emailing contact@heartonmainstreet.org. Thanks. Bye.